Good morning, everybody. It's BDF 44, the day after Valentine's Day, 2020. So yeah, I'm just sitting here mulling over what I just kind of scrolled around and found. Snoop Dogg's son Cordell is doing a modeling, having a modeling career at the moment, and he's doing pretty well in it from what I see. But he's taking a lot of heat for dressing a certain way. He had on pink, flowers, little pin that looked like he said, "I'm a girl." And it was almost like a feminine type / masculine merge type of fashion thing that he was doing. And a lot of people in the black community are kind of sounding off on their various opinions. Some people are very supportive, others not so supportive. And I just want to kind of comment and first of all, say whatever comes to mind, and then try to, figure out if his sexuality should really be brought into play when we start talking about what he's wearing. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I was much more ignorant and young, I would have said, dude's gay. Straight up, he gay. Look at how he's dressed, period. But I think we're in a place right now, we understand the fashion can sometimes get a little wacky, I guess you can say. We know that, and it's been that way since forever. But I think when you're talking about high fashion, it gets to a point where we can, especially in our community, we can kind of put labels on things. If a man's not dressing a certain way, he sleeps a certain way. If he's not providing a certain level of strength in his appearance, then we automatically assume there's something correlated between his dress and his sexuality. And I just am fathoming something greater in my own understanding. I just don't think that we can label a person anything based on how they dress. However, there is something to be said for the timing of all of this. Snoop Dogg, his father, just gotten a lot of heat for that Gayle King situation, and a week or two later, these pictures emerge of his son wearing a dress, or rather dressing feminine. He's not wearing a dress, they're just pants, so let me get that right, but dressing in a feminine way. And I just think that because these pictures are over 3 weeks old, and the fact that this has all come out right now, the timing makes you raise an eyebrow. I know I've seen some YouTubers speak about Illuminati and different sacrifices, and this is a punishment that Snoop Dogg has to face for pissing off the hierarchy. And I don't know nothing about that stuff. We can all speculate. I will admit that the timing looks crazy, and I will admit there is some consistencies taking place right now between African Americans, families, and an embracing of the youth in the LGBT community. LGBT community, excuse me. So I understand why people would come to certain conclusions or allow their minds to go certain places. I just don't know enough to say enough about that. I don't know, but I will say there's a lot to unpack in regards to, if you're a conspiracy theorist, in regard to how these things work out. If you're a believer in the hierarchy of media and Illuminati type of goings on, if you believe in that kind of stuff, there's a lot to look at. I'll be the first one to tell you there's a lot to look at. But I don't allow my mind to really get into stuff like that because I'm just not well versed on what people are talking about, what is actually going on. I'm not in anybody's rooms to know what kind of conversations are being had or anything. I'm just in the dark. So I can speculate like everybody else, but at the end of the day, I don't think that it's very responsible for me to go further than that. However, when it comes to how I feel and what I'm seeing, obviously Dwayne Wade's child has made a transition, mental transition, into womanhood. And that's something that he's embraced, and he and his wife have embraced a great deal. And, it's tough for me because I'm on the fence in regards to, first of all, you need to support your child in whatever it is that they do, or you could lose them, period. And I believe myself to be all inclusive. And I also believe that, if you are not inclusive of individuals, it can breed a sense of hate for themselves and others. And you just create monsters out here if you don't embrace people's identity and embrace people's truth, especially if they're your relative, and even more so if they're your kid. So I think Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union have handled this amazingly, and I think they're role models for all of us. There's a flip side to my thought. Is there some truth? And I just pose a question because, again, I'm ignorant, so I don't know. But is there some truth to the demasculinity of the African-American male? Now, I know for a long time, this country has been known for making African-Americans look a certain way, other than just regular, hard-working individuals. Through media, through imaging, through news, they always want to paint us as either some type of threat to normal society, or want to demasculate our strength to try to make us appear weaker or less valuable or something of that nature to our families and to our households and to our women. And that's something I cannot shake. So is there some balance to try to find between the two thoughts that I hold? I imagine there is. While on one hand, I do trust that I would be the type of parent who would be embracing, if that's a word, I don't know if that's a word, but embracing my child's identity, whoever they may be, whoever they decide to be at whatever time they decide to be that, and not try to dictate, well, their age should determine whether or not I allow them to be themselves or whether or not I allow them to have their truth. I don't follow people in that regard. I think that if he finds out he's a woman at 12, then he's a she at 12, and that's just what I have to embrace as a father. There's no situation where we say, well, we'll wait until he's 15 to see if he still feels this way. No, because that's 3 years of trauma, 3 years of making a child feel like they're not welcome in who they believe themselves to be, are not welcome in your presence. That's a no-no. You can't do that. Not as a parent. Not if you want to keep your child sane, keep your child feeling good about themselves, keep your child loving you. You don't do that. So I can't follow people when they say, no, I can't embrace my child's identity until they're in a safe enough space mentally to do. No, that just doesn't work in my opinion. But at the same time, I do believe that there is some responsibility to parents to kind of guide their children to being the type of individuals that you believe they should be. So where's the balance? And can there be both of those things taking place at the same time? I believe they can. I think your child can embrace being whoever they choose to be and still hold the responsibility of being the person that you want them to be, the strong person that you would like them to be, or have the values that you have in store to share with them. But at the end of the day, when they do become who it is that they become, whoever they are, you will have to accept that some of those values will be dropped aside and they'll become their own person with their own values. And that's sometimes a very difficult thing for parents to accept, no matter if it's a sexual transition or just some other type of lifestyle transition, or just a person growing up and just deciding they don't want to be who you want them to be. So there's a balance to be had, and I'm searching for that. And I'm luckily enough in a space in my life where I'm old enough to have those thoughts in my head without children yet. So hopefully by the time I have children, God willing, I'm able to be a father, some of this stuff will be straightened out in my mind, and I will have more of an open mind to kind of not have to deliberate or go have these arguments in my own head. I guess it's a good time to do it. But yeah, at the end of the day, as far as Snoop Dogg's situation is concerned, I think he's handling it pretty well. He's not making a big deal out of it. He's come out and posted something very recently, in the last couple minutes, that he supports his son's modeling career. Cordell has a child out here. He's a father himself. So, if you want to question his sexuality, you can go ahead. But it is very clear that he has affinity for women, or has had them in the past. And if you care about that kind of thing, because in our community, African-American community, black community, there's a big portion of us that don't accept gayness for a number of reasons. Homosexuality or alternative lifestyle, sexual lifestyles, or identity lifestyles for a number of reasons. One of them is because we are so cognizant of the image that is placed upon the world in regards to who we are. We want to be seen as men who can stick around be fathers, be strong, love black women, and still manage to contribute and influence upon the world that is positive. And in our community, a lot of people don't believe you can do that if you have an alternate identity than the one that you were born with, your biological identity. So, you know, I don't assume Cordell is anything really. He's just a guy that's modeling. And sometimes when you're a model, they put you in all kinds of stuff. Sometimes when you're a model, you're around a lot of different people, and that can influence who you are. Alternate lifestyle, embracing individuals will kind of influence a person if you're that type of individual, and you can find yourself changing and embracing something that wasn't necessarily who you were in the beginning. Maybe that's where he is in his life. Who knows? But you know, as far as just the overall scope that I have upon African Americans, homophobia, what the word homophobia actually means, and is that something that we are, or is it just something that's within our culture that doesn't really allow us to feel comfortable embracing alternate sexualities and alternate lifestyles? And I think that you have to be very careful when you're labeling people who are not open-minded, because you can turn them into someone that hates, rather than someone who's just not yet in a space where they can clearly embrace what it is that you're talking about. And I don't think that's any different than with racism, you know, especially considering the climate that a lot of people grew up in. Now, that's a difficult thing for us to embrace, but I think that when you reach a space in your mind where you can see clearly, you must see that. Just because a person isn't used to what you're asking them to embrace does not mean they hate it, does not mean that they fear it. So I think there's a balance to be understood when you're talking about those who reject the notion of gayness, reject the notion of integration even though it's something that we want everybody to be on board with. Get used to me, I'm black, but reality is just 50 years ago, this was a different country. In certain places, it's still a different country in regards to embracing who I am. So I have to remember that as a black person when considering others. It doesn't mean that your fight and my fight are the same in regards to African Americans versus those who have alternate identities and lifestyles. Nor does it mean that you're separate if you're an African American with an alternate lifestyle. So there's a lot for us to understand about one another, and I still feel like I have a long way to go before I'm part of the understanding myself. But that's the importance of having videos like this, and hopefully displaying my ignorance as well as my understanding and my truth, and my hopes for not only myself but for my people and for those who are not a part of my group, I guess, or whatever you could say, my race or what have you. At the end of the day, identifying as a straight male, black male, I would have to admit that there is some apprehensive energy in regards to alternate lifestyles, particularly in males, because I am a male. I do have a certain stigma about me, being born in 1984, raised in a household where it was understood, or it was taught that being gay is a sin. One of many, mind you, and no sin is more important than another, but nevertheless something that religiously was looked at and frowned upon. And as we've come into this era, I've been asked to abandon that, and a lot of people who are like me have been asked to abandon that and embrace everything that there is to embrace about people identifying themselves a certain way. And I'd have to allow that to be. If I want to sit here and say I've sinned before, or I'm not certain if what I did was right or wrong, or if maybe someone else sees what I have done as a sin and I don't see it that way, I would need someone to stall me out or give me a break. So in regards to people's lifestyles and their sexuality and their choices and their identity and their decisions to how to display their own selves, I need to give people a break first and foremost before I come to any conclusion. And I'd ask that you do the same. Just give people a break. Even if you don't agree with their lifestyle, don't try to change them because that's really not my place, and I don't think it's yours either. So anyway, at the end of the day, that's what I wanted to say. I know I'm kind of all over the place. Didn't really prepare myself for this video. I just kind of turned on the recorder like I usually do and just start talking. So if I've misspoken in any way, whether it be in this video or any previous videos, I'll own that. And if it's necessary to apologize, I'd be willing to. But at this point in time, I don't feel like I have in this one. So yeah, my name is Brandon. BDF44 is what I call myself. You can follow me on Apple Music if you like playlists. I make a lot of them. And yeah, that's what I got. Thanks for watching. Peace.